Okay, we have a quorum present, so let's call this meeting to order. And good evening, everybody. We have a short agenda. Did get a bunch of information beforehand, so we may be able to keep this short and painless. The first item on the agenda is our minutes. We have minutes from 2 meetings. The May 5th meeting and the May 7th meeting, so we'll take a motion to approve minutes of May 5th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
And I'll second it. Any discussion on that?
Nope.
If not, then all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The second minutes are from May 7th. I'll make a motion to approve those.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion about those? If not, then all in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. We have 2 reserve fund transfers. I sent those out.
Yep.
I don't think you had a chance to look
No,
at them.
I read them already.
Okay. The first one is for repair of a snow blower, falling apart. I talked to Jeremy about both of these, and this work has been completed. So they're just looking for not requested $616 for it, and the back materials. So. Have any additional questions from Jeremy? I just found out So I'll take a motion to approve the transfer of $616 as posted.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any further discussion on that? If not, then all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And the second one, also from the same committee, building repairs. This is for the new library. They're going to repave it and put lines on it, including some handicap markers. And apparently, when the survey was done as to what had to be included, what was to be included, and what was going to cost to do all this, it left this out. So they've come up with it afterwards. And this work has not been done because the library has not been paved yet. They're still going to be paving the library, and after they do that, there'll be paving. So that's what I know about it.
Wouldn't they use the paving money to pay it?
Is this one of the transfers?
How much is this again? Is this
This
the
is, we transferred
It was
37?
some sum of money at some
800.
point
Oh,
into that account, into the library paving account
Yes.
to begin with, because the original estimate was on the short side.
I don't remember the specifics of that.
Well, the money came from the, yeah, it was a special town meeting, and the money came from the cemetery paving account, which had been, since it had been done by us, or by the highway department, it was nowhere near the cost that they had estimated. And they transferred a chunk of money in, which they said was gonna be enough to take care of the paving. And I'm just wondering if,
Well, when I
it's
read
not
that
much
other,
different, I mean, this money coming out of cemetery paving, one way or the other, it came out of cemetery paving.
I do remember that, but when I was reading in there, it also stated there were some things that were a little different than when I read through the attachment, not this.
Oh, this,
I think it was
yeah.
this one.
and how much are we talking about?
$800.
It's 800.
Paid?
So it looked like there was a few things that were a little bit different than
Yeah.
what was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's 800.
So,
The answer to the question is you don't know.
but I will take a request, I'll take a motion to approve the $850.
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Nothing, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. The next item is that we have a special town meeting coming up during the town meeting time on January 9th. And there are 3 articles on there. And so they all involve money, so we need to discuss them. The first one is transferring from the stabilization fund about $25,000 for the purpose of paying prior bills for the fire ambulance department. This relates to fiscal year '24.
So this is 2 years ago?
Yeah. And we.
No.
No, it would be last year, because we're going, the new fiscal year will be 2026.
Yeah, but we're in 25 now,
We're in 25 now, and doesn't this relate
and the bill was
to 25?
24.
24.
Oh, from 24?
From fiscal year '24, yeah.
Okay, so that's,
And it's gone so long that, you know, we've got to take care of it.
okay.
This is in addition to the other motions that have been at the meeting to transfer money into the fund. So it's one of those things that this isn't got to be, it's 2 years old when we pass the whole end of the fiscal year. But take them.
Do you know what it was for?
No. There was a whole collection of stuff there that voted in one of the town meetings last year.
Try that again.
At one of the town meetings, we voted to transfer money to pay for the overages on the budget.
Yeah, and the special town meeting this past fall, we also
There were two
Voted
town meetings
to.
voted, yeah.
voted a prior year bill.
Yeah.
And this is something that was found
This is
by
something that's.
the interim chief when he came in.
Yeah.
But the contrary to information we had a year ago, this isn't one of those where if it's turned down, it automatically gets charged to the tax rate.
Yeah, no, it's different, because
Yeah.
it's gone too far.
No.
Too long, isn't
Because
it?
I think we had incorrect advice a year ago,
Oh.
or 6 months ago,
Oh.
because the law would have changed in the meantime. But the answer is it doesn't get paid. The people would have to bring suit against the town. And if they then won the suit, then there's a judgment against the town, and then we would pay it.
Yeah.
So are you recommending that we not pay the bill?
No, because I don't think there's
Okay.
any question, but the town owns the bill, so there's no point letting the.
Well, no, I get it,
attorneys
but-
money.
You're implying that we could like stretch it out for years if we did that.
Yeah, they're costly.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, no, that's bad policy, but I'm just saying, you know. Okay, so,
and it requires a 9/10 vote.
so it requires an individual roll call vote? This requires a roll call
At
vote?
town meeting, this will require a 9/10 vote.
Okay,
At town meeting.
so for us here,
Just simple.
okay, simple, okay.
So do we, the prior year bills, do they know what they are? Did they give that?
Yeah, I don't have that information. I don't know, they must have talked about that in the.
Well, we would have it in the 2024, if anybody still has notes from 2024, it would probably be there someplace because we must have had a discussion about that.
We didn't have a discussion about this, I don't think.
No.
Well, we had a discussion in general about coming bills, so this just happens to be more of what was going on from that time period.
Well, we assume so.
Okay. Anyway, I'll make a motion to approve Article 1.
It's the motion that we will recommend.
That will recommend that, okay, I see. Okay.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? If not, then all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Let's do the Article 3.
Yep,
And this is transferring money from the cemetery paving account for the purpose of paving the driveway at 215 West State Street. That's the annex building.
Mm-hmm.
In lieu of rent for the period of July 1st through December 31st of 2026. So this is what was worked out for, rent was going to be going up.
Well, this is actually a better deal.
Now, for a while, I think they asked that we pay the driveway and pay rent, and I think it got negotiated to pay the driveway.
No, because it said rent was gonna be 4,400. So if you multiply that by 18 months, that's like 60,000 roughly. And we're gonna keep the place for paving it for $37,000 to $40,000. So that's a deal.
I think this is to carry us through the end of the 18 months.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it goes
goes
to
till
2026.
December
Yeah,
31st
yeah.
of 2026.
December 31st, 2026.
Well, that's more than 12 years. 12
No.
months.
No, I
Yeah.
said that's 18 months.
18 months.
Yeah, so I said that's a good deal, because 18
Well, I'm not
months.
saying it isn't, but 18 times the 4,
Well, then it's like 75 or 80,000.
80,000.
Yeah, okay, so it's
This
even
is,
higher.
actually, this is much closer to just keeping the same rent.
Rent.
Actually, it's a
Right
little
now.
cheaper than
Yeah.
keeping the same.
Yeah, just a bit cheaper to keep.
And then everybody saves space. You know, nobody has to come down to it.
There was a concern from the Board of Selectmen that doing work on private property was a no-no. The town council reviewed it and said that what's being proposed is okay.
Yeah, well, because it's your, so we have a rental contract, and it's the consideration, you know, for letting us stay here, we agree to repave your road, and we estimate that cost to be X. And,
But I would like to have the town council approve the lease.
you mean the select board? You would like to have the select board approve the lease?
No, I'd like to have town council give the legal
Oh, the
opinion
legal.
that we aren't, that doing this on someone's private property is okay, it's acceptable given the condition. I'd like them to make sure that the lease is worded to bring that about.
Does town council normally review?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know.
I would think-
I'm assuming-
I would think so, but I don't know.
I'm assuming that we have a legal review of contracts, but maybe not.
I think we're all assuming that.
Yeah, okay. Well,
We just asked that question.
so I'm all for it.
So here comes the question. If we're responsible, it depends on what the contract states. But if we're responsible for maintaining the building and the property while we lease it as a government property, wouldn't paving the driveway?
We're not.
We're not really responsible
we're
for
not leasing the whole
maintaining.
property there.
Yeah,
Well, the parking lot would be part of the,
yeah, well, we're paying the rent, and then
right, but.
previously it was that they gave us the driveway and the building in consideration for the rent. Now, instead of paying rent and then leaving it to them to pay the driveway, the consideration is now, the value is now,
Increase.
yeah, well, the value is now paving the driveway
Right.
instead of paying a rent,
Yeah.
that's all. They can do it all. I mean, it's a contract.
I
So,
believe that some of the background on this is that the owner's insurance company wanted the driveway paved,
probably.
and that's what brought it to a head.
And you got the telco company there too, using that one building.
I don't know whether they use it.
I think they still park trucks there, I don't know, maybe. Okay,
So from their point of view, they were either gonna have to pay for the driveway to be paved and get no rent because we were gonna move out, or else to get rent.
yeah. Yeah, but that's
I
okay,
think it works for everybody.
yeah.
Okay, we're gonna take a motion that we will recommend this article.
I'll make a motion for recommendation of Article 3.
And I second.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Now, the big one. Article 2 is to move money from the West Street building demolition pile money back into the account for the West Street building renovation. Now, my understanding, I had some conversations with Lynn today, and Bob had a brief conversation with Mark. And my understanding is this. Back when this project first started, when we authorized the, I think it's $5.6 million, $5.7 million, Lynn had a committee, and based on the information that they had at the time, including the fire chief and the building inspector, who walked through and did an inspection of the West Street School building. And based upon what they saw, they both offered the opinion that it was ADA compliant. After the project got started and they hired the architect to come in, the architect looked at it and he said, well, because of two things. One, because the property had been vacant for 3 years, and because this was a change in use of the property, that it was no longer then continuing to be ADA compliant. It had to be compliant with the new set of regulations for ADA compliant. So that started snowballing into all the different things that they said they were going to do, and they added up to $15 million. They are pretty sure, but not completely positive, that the total of $5.5 million or so that they've got left, including this transfer, will be enough to do a bare bones renovation to make the building and a piece of it compliant, to move the town offices into West Street School. I asked whether or not the committee was being charged with finding a solution for rehousing the people who are currently over in the annex. And that is, it would include other possibilities such as using other existing buildings or putting up other new buildings to do that. And they said no, their charge was just to figure out how to spend no more than the $5.5 million or so that's left and make the old West Street School available for the town offices. And so that's what the project is.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Did the people at that last town meeting not vote, number one, to demolish the building? And we voted that article yes, and that passed. And then in the middle, they changed all this other stuff and combined it to do this. And now they're still trying to save the building and invest in the building, when in fact, I personally believe that because it didn't pass the other article, the townspeople voted to demolish it, which personally I'm all for. So now we're going to sink 3 or 5 million or 7 million or some big amount of money and waste this money on a building built in 1941 instead of taking that money, demolishing this, using new resilient, weather resilient materials and stuff, and build a small annex that would be more efficient, that would take us 50 or 75 years into the future, because you're going to get more extremes of temperature, more of this. I'm not arguing the politics of climate change or anything else, but I just strongly believe that that's what we should do. And unless I'm mistaken, I guess I have to look at the minutes, I thought there was a vote to demolish the thing if we didn't pass the money to rehabilitate the whole thing. And now we're back, no, we're not going to demolish it. Now we're going to make use of it again. Now we're going to spend more money. I mean, I don't really understand the narrow focus of trying to retrieve and save this whole project, except to the degree that I guess people put in so much effort they can modify it down. But I think it's a bad investment. Okay, anyway, I've said my piece.
I would argue a bit different, because I would argue that based upon the context, that's not exactly what happened. My recollection is more that the context that was presented to the town was, should we spend $15 million to do this renovation of the whole building and make it nice inside and everything else like that? Or should we tear it down? I don't think they were given any other options. And I'm not certain that if they were given the option that was originally passed by the town, that is, say, for $5.5 million or $5.7 million, whatever it is, for $5.7 million, can you create a space there for the town offices, which the town voted for. And I think what they're trying to do, or I think one way to look at this, is they're trying to bring back that original position of can this be done for $5.5 million? And instead of the either-or alternatives that were presented of, do you want to spend $15 million? And the answer is clearly no. So there was no other option on the table except tearing the building down. Now, what I've been told is that if we spend the money to tear the building down, then there will not be enough money, not anywhere near enough money left in that pile of money to be able to do anything to create offices in one spot for the departments that are over in the annex now, plus presumably the departments that are in the West Street, State Street building. So,
Are they currently using portions of that property?
the West
The West
School?
Street, yep.
No?
Not of the building, not the
Not the
interior,
building,
not
but
the
the
interior.
property.
Yeah. The outside, I think they're storing stuff.
Have you looked at that building? I mean, we can't get in it. Go over and physically look at that building and tell me that spending $5 or $7 million is a smart investment on a building built in 1941 with asbestos, with all of this other stuff. So just like the high school, we would have to remediate to a certain level. So I believe 7 million, 10 million by the time we're done for a little sliver. And we got hardly any money in town. This is a wasted investment. Just because we have a need for offices, I mean, shoot, bring in a Quonset hut temporarily. Do something, save some money, and be smart and build for the future instead of pouring it down, because eventually we're going to have to take it down anyway, and then we just threw this money away.
Well, the money's not going to be spent unless they decide that for this amount of money, they can do the renovation that's necessary to house the offices.
Who's they?
The committee and the architect and builder that they.
So the point being is, when we transfer this, all the future decision now has nothing to do with the voters. This all has to do with them.
No,
it has to do with the Board of Selectmen.
Board of Selectmen. What this does is that it reappoints the same committee to continue the work. And they'll have some money to spend on the architect and the other builder to help them assess the stuff. So everything will be assessed, and then we'll figure out, can they, for $5.5 million, renovate, bring everything up to code in a portion of the building, and fit the offices somehow or another into that portion of the building.
I'll bet you for $5.5 million, we can build a nice small office.
Well, they're not asking for, they can't spend any more money.
That's absolutely correct, but they do not know at this point in time what they can get
Yes.
for the $5.5 million.
But if
So
they
the
can't-
first thing they're gonna have to do is determine
What they can get.
what the scope of the project is.
Yeah, and then have the selectmen agree, the select board agree that that's okay. I mean,
Yeah, and then
to-
go out
to
to bid,
proceed on
and
the project.
hopefully it comes in.
And if they can't in that initial inspection figure out any way to do that, then no money will get spent.
Okay, so then what we're really left with, based on their strategy, is we're left with $2.6 million to deal specifically with remediation, because it said remediation/demolition, so we're not demolishing. So then we're moving $3 million to do the other work. So then let's say we get started, remediation's really gonna cost us $5.8 million, so now we gotta come back to the town for $3.6 more million because we're into the project now, and we estimated it at 2.6.
No, we're never getting into the project until they decide that the project can be done exactly as they want.
Yeah, in other words, there's gonna be an you can't sign a contract until there's an appropriation to cover the total cost.
Yeah.
So if the bid comes in on the high side, yes, they have to come back, but it's back to the voters again
Yeah.
to determine whether they'll put more money into it or not. And if
Well,
they don't, then the deal falls.
I just feel safer leaving all the money in the remediation demolition account until we figure out what we're gonna do. If they're saying we gotta spend 100,000, then I'm willing to move that over to the renovation account and let them build that an accountant. But I personally, I feel that the taxpayers, we have more control if we leave it in the renovation demolition account until all the plan is out there. If it's a great plan, so be it, and it all comes in, I guess, but right now, I personally can't support this because to me, it's an end run again. Oh, now we're back here. We went for this, now we're back here. Oh, we voted to demolish it if we weren't gonna approve this, but no, that doesn't really count. That's how I feel
Blame that
how
on
this whole
John.
thing has come
The
out.
one that suggested that it would be a good idea to have a fallback article in the event that the original thing didn't pass.
For this, or you mean for the?
When the original vote was,
They hadn't done any work. They had looked at 3 options, and the town rejected 2 of them, basically. But this sort of is not an end run. This is a straight down the field approach. And it either works or doesn't. And it's either going to get stopped at the line of scrimmage, or else it's going to proceed ahead.
I'm just saying, I thought we voted to demolish it if the people didn't vote for those other plans, and so now we have a whole new, because certain people want this thing to go through. Now we have this approach. That's how it looks to me.
Joe, we voted to demolish it, but it was in a completely different context. We were given vote A or B. And so we voted B.
No, we voted demolish, and then, we took it.
We voted down A, which was, we said we didn't want to spend $15 million. If we could get an override or a debt exclusion passed.
Yeah.
Right, so here's.
And in lieu of that, I would think that the thinking was that in the event we aren't gonna do this project, let's tear the building down.
And since
So
the
that was
voters
just a fallback.
voted against doing the project, instead of let's demolish it, now let's come back and go back over
But
here.
they also did vote $5 million to do something.
Yeah, they basically voted for this. This is the third vote.
No.
This is the third vote being taken on this.
Okay,
And we
but-
don't want them to take a 4th vote.
Okay, 2024, we voted all this money. The justification was, we don't know how much it's gonna cost us to take the tank out. Okay, that was the justification for moving for moving the 3.8 and the 1.1 and all those little accounts, everything there. That was the initial justification.
So on that piece of it, how I recall it is, if the tank cost more than a certain amount, then they would not do it. But the tank came under the amount
Right.
that they wanted, so they were able to move forward with it. But then what they did was they changed, because I also remember at that meeting, they stated that this is the amount it would cost to renovate the building, which is about what this is. It's this amount. But what is their plan with this 5?
Well, what they're going to do is they're going to formally be able to hire an architect and a builder, I guess.
I've heard that, but I'm not sure that that's true.
Then what did the
I mean,
architects do
I
before?
can't think of why, right now, they can't hire anybody to do work with them. It may be foolish, if the project fell apart, it would be money wasted. But I think they have the authority. Now, they don't have the authority, obviously, to ever get into a contractor without the selectmen saying, okay. But somebody right now, I think, could tell the architect, go to work and do this or that.
Okay, so
You
here's
don't
my,
need $5.5 million to do it. There's enough left in there at $2 million or thereabouts to.
okay,
cover
so
the
here's
cost.
my question. So let's say they do all this, they come out, they hire an architect to come up with a plan. We now have to go to the ballot box and vote.
No.
They just get to move forward?
Yep.
Yep. If they can do what they're told is what done, and that's to move all the town offices into.
No, I don't think so.
You don't think
No, they're just gonna do what they can do.
They're gonna do what they can do.
Yeah, they're not even trying to move everybody
So
in.
we're-
Oh, well, yeah.
Working
okay,
backwards.
it might be-
We
Yeah.
got this amount of money, and we know we gotta do this and
Yeah,
this.
so then once we get that done, we're now gonna go and now we're gonna try to do another chunk. And in the end, we're gonna spend
Yeah, but you're gonna,
seven.
if that were to be the case,
They don't
you're
have,
gonna have a choice in saying no on that.
who's gonna say no after you've already sunk $5 or $6 million into part of the building?
We're gonna let.
No, I'm just saying, what I'm
We're gonna do a
saying,
third of the building, and that's
Yeah.
it.
for right now.
No, we're doing a third of the building.
That's all the
If,
money we
if
have.
4 years from now, we decide we wanna do more, we start all over again.
Okay. Well,
Maybe foolish, it may be that it's a
Well,
never-ending money
look.
pit, I don't know, but.
look, I'm just going on record, I'm not gonna support that, I don't support it, okay?
Okay, look at it this way. What are you gonna do about the people in the annex?
We'll figure it out, I said rent a car.
How?
You can how many people are we talking about? Okay, here's what I would do. I would take the 2.5 million, destroy everything, go out, a whole bunch of prefab business guys, all these companies that are out there, and for $5 million, I would then put up.
No, we just tore the building down.
Okay, well, for
So
$3 million
$3
then.
$3 million is now
Well,
gone.
for $3 million, we can put up.
No, we're gonna have about 2 million left. We've spent $300,000 or $400,000.
Look, it's a building in 1941 with asbestos, okay? It's a really old building. Are you gonna upgrade the air conditioning system? So when it gets
There isn't-
really
there
hot
isn't
in the
one.
summer?
There isn't one at the moment.
I know. I'm just saying, it's a really uncomfortable building too. I just think, it's just like, I don't know. I have my biases, as you know, John. I mean, I go all the way back to, I was very pro on buying the seminary and 500 acres, but, that blew it. And I just look at all these things and plans, but I just cannot, in today's world of extreme climate, I cannot invest in a 1941 building. A building built in 1941, not built for this environment, and now we're gonna be trying to take that another 50 years. That's my opposition. I just think a better investment is a new weather resilient building. I mean, there's so much technology out there today. That's what I believe, even if it's smaller, and if we have to get more money, it makes sense. But in no way, shape, or form was I ever for putting $15 million and because you gotta remediate it because of asbestos. I mean, that's the wild card. I mean, I don't know how much extra money we had to spend blowing, dynamiting over there so we could properly fit in the safety complex into that shale and rock. We spent a lot of money there too. I mean, remediation to me is scary, I mean, I'd be better off saying, could we move offices into the high school, into the junior, senior high school? Anyway, that's just how I feel strongly about this. And I've thought a lot about it, I mean, they did great plans, they did all this great stuff, but at the center of it is a better investment decision. And I don't believe investing in a 1941 building is a good investment.
Would you have been in favor, were you in favor of the first project?
Of the first, which was, no,
$5.5 million to.
no, I was
Okay,
only,
so you were against that.
I was against that from the beginning,
Okay.
okay? But I agreed to it because everybody's going, I was opposed to moving all of that money in there. I didn't feel that, I just felt they were gonna protect it for some. We didn't need to move all that money in there all at once, but they made a decision so they could hold it for that whole situation, so that, to do what they wanted to do. And again, that's just, as a citizen, that's just my opinion. I'm sure there's plenty of people, that don't have a problem rehabbing a 1941 building, you know? But go ask the people who are gonna have to work in there and ask them if they wanna work with no air conditioning. Or go to Germany, like I used to travel in the summer, where 3/4 of the building don't have air conditioning and they're just as humid as us.
Joe, we do not know whether there's gonna be air conditioning in there.
Yeah, we can't say that.
Because it,
Well, I'm just saying that if you go
I
forward.
mean, I would assume that there would
If you
be.
go forward, you have, if you want efficient workers, you need to put stuff like that in.
Why do we
That's
assume,
what we're,
we would assume that they're gonna be there?
No, I'm assuming that they would do it. I'm just saying, a new building is money better spent, that's all. So,
and it's probably gonna be more money spent.
and there will be more money spent.
No. Putting in new buildings is probably going to be more expensive.
You don't know what your remediation costs for what they're gonna do that
We
is.
have an architect who has. to
So
put it
each
out
time,
there.
yeah, so each time to make the $3 million budget, so, oh, we're gonna start with this number of rooms.
So let me ask you a question.
Yes.
If the remediation costs come up to be more than $3 million, all right, what do you think is gonna happen?
It's not gonna go forward, but my
Okay,
opposition
no,
is,
it's not gonna go
don't,
forward, and where's the money? We have it.
well, we have it in the remediation, demolition account too. But we're holding it there because they can't use it to renovate, they can only use it to remediate or demolish. And then move on
We're
from
not to
there.
remediate, well.
That's what it
or
says.
In the event of a demolition.
Yeah, no, what it says right here is to move it from account remediation/demolition account, right there. That's what it's in, that's the current account.
Because
So-
somebody gave that name to it without it being a town meeting vote to determine the name.
Yeah.
That's an accounting department.
No, that was a strategy because if you voted to get it approved,
the name,
the
we're not
money's
talking
there.
about the strategy.
Yeah, because you can use it for remediation if they passed, if the townspeople had passed, you know, and had voted to spend the money, but they didn't. But that way, it could say, oh, you know, it's remediation, you know, they've approved it, so now we have this money here for remediation.
The town voted to spend $5.8 million 2 years ago. A committee was never formed to try to figure out how to spend $5.8 million and put whatever happens in the building. They were nobody ever looked at that. What they looked at was there were a group of people who were convinced that the West Street School should be saved no matter what. There were a group of people who thought that the most important thing was to get people out of the annex. There was another group, there were all sorts of...
Probably a pretty good sized group of people that say you shouldn't put your money into an 80-year-old building too.
Yeah,
We know there's at least one.
So we do know that they've had professionals involved, have been through the building, have looked at a lot of stuff. They don't know everything that's in there, but they haven't said this building is crumbling. They haven't said that at all.
But it's
And
full of
why
but it has asbestos.
anybody would think it makes sense to start on a major project that requires 4 different town votes in different years? That's silly. You don't do things like that.
Okay, but what I do remember in the way that it was pitched, to move all that money there is, hey, we need to move it all here because we don't know how much it's gonna cost to remove the tank. No, I remember, to me, that was like an overriding position.
No.
There was ARPA money, I think, that had to be...
Yes.
Forget our money, that's part of the money of the $5.5 million, that's all.
Yeah, part of the $5.5 million.
Yeah,
Yeah, it had to be done, something had to be, something...
no, we don't know, we don't really know that.
Okay.
We don't know what the terms are, and what the use of the money is, what's permitted and what isn't permitted. And I don't even know whether we have the money in the bank here or whether we have to draw it from the federal government
I don't
and
know.
then we spend it, I don't know that.
I thought we heard that there was a December 31st deadline that year for committing the money.
For committing the money, yes, but what it can be committed for is a different question.
Well, it could have been committed for something else, perhaps, but it was committed to this.
The town of Granby committed it to this, supposedly to renovating that building.
Yeah.
okay? Which is different than, can it be used for something that isn't renovating the building? Simply, could it be used to demolish the building? You don't know.
You don't know that?
No, that's right, we don't know that.
I was under the impression that once it was committed to a project, that then it belonged to the town. But I could be wrong with that.
I'm sure you're gonna have some paperwork you're gonna send into
Yeah.
the boys of Washington to justify the fact
Well-
that you spent it, if they didn't come along. and
Well, that was
grab
the
it.
old days. Under the current government,
No, you still have to. If you make a change to what the original agreement is, like when you go, because they're considered a grant. So if you change the purpose of the grant, you have to submit,
but we already have the grant money in hand, is that correct?
I don't know.
that I'm not
I'm
hundred
not sure.
percent
I looked
sure.
Because if we don't have it in hand, I have my doubts whether we're gonna get it,
We may not.
just because of the change in government policies at the federal level.
Well, one thing's for sure, if we don't have it, we aren't gonna have, whatever we vote here is moot or useless.
Yeah.
Okay, I got another question to ask. Whether the ARPA money stays with the town if the project doesn't go through? In other words, can it be transferred?
Or you can also put in, or can it be used solely for demolition?
And I'd like to know if we have the federal grant monies currently in hand.
That's,
Oh, is that part of this question?
Question, yeah.
Normally, those type of expenses are reimbursable, so you have to, expense it before you can. That's
Okay.
normally how it's supposed to be.
Oh, is that like our high school roof? Remember the old one decades ago where we were supposed to get reimbursed for the new roof we had to put in the high school, and then the state closed the fund, so we couldn't get reimbursed. I think that's when you were the town administrator, Bob.
I don't remember that.
I remember
We
that.
did the roof and.
Yeah, we never
had
got
some
reimbursed.
hazmat Problems with it, when it rained, when it wasn't expected to.
No, we never got reimbursed from the state that had promised to pay us that money, or said they would. Anyway,
All right, we ready to take a vote on this?
yep.
Okay, I'll take a motion to vote that we recommend approval of Article 2, special town meeting.
Also,
And is there any further discussion on it? We need? If not, then all in favor? Aye. Aye. All opposed?
Okay.
Thank you very much. And let's see. I think that is it for our agenda.
you had something else on here, I didn't know what you were talking about. I won't say you had it down. It was on the post.
Oh, this, the budget, the 26 budget.
Oh, I had, this 25-26.
Yeah. I think that was a catch-all for if we had budget discussions. We sometimes have clean-up budget discussions, but I don't think we need that. So unless anybody has anything else, take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Okay.